It was a dark and stormy night, the kind of night that makes you want to curl up under the covers and hide from the world. But Billy had no covers, no bed, and no way to hide. He was lost in the woods, and he had been for hours. The wind howled through the trees like a pack of wolves, and the rain pelted down on the forest floor with a ferocity that made it seem almost alive. Billy had always been something of an adventurous child, and he had begged his parents to take him camping for his birthday. They had finally relented, and they had set off into the woods early that morning. They had been having a great time, exploring the trails and catching fish in the nearby stream. But then, Billy had wandered off to explore on his own. He had been gone for what felt like hours, and when he turned around to make his way back to the campsite, he couldn't find it. The trees all looked the same, and the storm had disoriented him. He had called out for his parents, but the wind had carried his voice away. As the night began to fall, Billy's fear turned to panic. He knew that he needed to find shelter, but all he could see were the dark, twisted trees that seemed to close in around him. He thought of the stories he had heard of people who had been lost in the woods, never to be found again. He wondered if he was going to become one of them. He felt a chill run down his spine as he remembered the stories of the creatures that lurked in these woods. They were said to be monsters, with razor-sharp teeth and glowing eyes. They were said to be able to smell fear and to be drawn to it. Billy couldn't help but wonder if they could smell him. He tried to push the thoughts out of his mind as he trudged through the woods, but it was hard when the darkness seemed to press in around him, making it difficult to see. The only thing that kept him going was the thought of his parents. He knew that they were probably out looking for him and that they would find him. He just had to hold on. Just when he thought he couldn't take it anymore, he saw a light in the distance. He stumbled towards it, his heart pounding with hope. As he got closer, he realized that it was a cabin. It looked old and abandoned, but it was better than nothing. He pushed open the door and was relieved to find that it was empty. He made his way to a corner of the room and curled up, trying to make himself as small as possible. He closed his eyes and listened to the storm rage outside. But as the night went on, Billy began to feel like he was being watched. He could hear strange noises coming from outside the cabin, scratching at the windows and doors. He was convinced that something was trying to get in. Billy huddled in the corner, feeling more alone and scared than he ever had in his life. He could hear the monsters outside, their claws scratching against the wood as they tried to find a way in. He could hear their breath, hot and heavy, on the other side of the door. He could hear their growls, low and menacing, as they searched for him. Billy started to shake, the fear taking over his body. He closed his eyes and tried to block out the sounds, but it was no use. The monsters were getting closer, and he knew that he was going to die. Just as he was about to give up hope, he heard a voice calling out his name. It was his father, come to rescue him. Billy had never been so happy to hear anyone in his life. He scrambled to his feet and ran towards the sound of his father's voice, tears streaming down his face. When he finally reached his father, he threw himself into his arms and clung to him tightly. His father hugged him back just as tightly, and they stood there for a moment, both of them crying. "We were so worried about you," his father said, his voice choked with emotion. "We've been looking for you for hours." Little did they know, the boy they found was not the boy they lost.